Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Off the Dome. I'm your humble interviewer, Jordan Brown, and with me for the very first time is our charity champion. Say hi, charity champion.
Hi, charity champion.
Oh, Shelby, thank you so much for joining me. First of all, thank you so much for donating to Doctors Without Borders, such an incredibly important cause, especially right now. I've done one of these already today, so in my head I'm like, I've already talked about this, but I haven't talked about this with you. So I'm super appreciative of that. I will also say that I underestimated how many people would be interested in doing this.
You're a popular guy. You're a popular guy.
It's very weird, which is great. Right? Like I think there's like 70 creators now in Run DMG's little charity fundraiser. The last I looked, we were $5 under 6,000 for the month. And we're recording this on the 15th, which means we have like half the month to go still. I will also tell you, I am crushing everyone because we are in a full competition to see who can raise the most money. So I'm happy to report that as of now, at least, I do not have to lower the prices on these interviews because, like Brendan Lee Mulligan, I would do anything to win anything. I'm happy that right now I don't have to do that. But I am also super, super excited to talk to you. I can see behind you Plug's Butt Ugly Stuff hat.
Yes.
Okay, great. I was like, I own one, so I know that's what it is.
I brought all my merch I have so far to display for
wonderful.
I thought it was
yes.
Apropos, if you will.
Yes, that's perfect. I can think of nothing more appropriate. I can't tell what mugs you have.
Okay, so we got the Cubbies.
Perfect.
Speech.
Yeah. Oh, I see that. Yep.
We got What's Crazy About Wanting Your Bones?
Such a good mug.
It's such a good character. One of my favorites. And then we have Brennan's Yes or No.
I was like, there's a lot of text on that one, so yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I have a very, very good friend of mine works in it's not human composting. As like a mortician, which if you've never heard of, absolutely wild. But like it's like the new hot trend in death is to have your body composted and turned into mulch. She's also a Dimension 20 fan, so I sent her the What Is So Crazy About Wanting Your Bones mug for Christmas. I was like, it's so perfect for you. You're a mortician who melts people's bones. Anyway. Also one of my favorite things about that character, and I assume you know, is that was fully improvised by Brennan because Brennan had no idea that they could that it was Erica, I think, that could fast travel. Am I misremembering who?
It's been a while, so
yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was Erica. Erica could fast travel, and Brennan had no idea that was like going to be a possibility. So he just fully on the spot invented that character. Which is wild because it felt so yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, but it's insane to me that was just let me just come up with this in 2 seconds here.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand how Brennan's brain works, but fully I don't understand how Brennan's brain works because the man doesn't use notes in a traditional sense. He can just, in the same way that you have two mugs that have just a block of text on them, those things were not pre-written. He can just do that at will. As he can also just be a beautiful flowing description of that has no ums or uhs or pauses in it. Yep, here we go. And just can do that. He's a wizard. A real life, I guess a bard would be more accurate, but
yeah, as Ali said in one of the most recent behind the scenes, it's like he was made in a lab to do this. That is 100% accurate.
I was about to say Ali's always right, but Ali is so very regularly wrong but we love them for it. But how did you get into this place where you're buying mugs and hats? What was your Dropout journey? How did you come to our beloved streaming service?
Yeah, sure. So aging myself a bit, but taking it back in the day to the 2010s.
The audacity of you
to
say aging yourself.
My own age. No, back in the 2010s, probably, I was a fan of College Humor, and I watched their videos on Facebook. So back in the day, I was a fan, and then, that kind of fell out of vogue, and I still was aware of them, but, didn't realize they were still a company. And then about late 2022, I think, I was on TikTok, our beloved source of all things, and I started getting edits and clips of this redheaded guy at what appeared to be College Humor, who was hilarious, and like you said, a mind that works like insane. And I was like, who is this man? Where can I watch more stuff with him on it? And then I inevitably came across Dimension 20, which holds a near and dear place in my heart now. But that was January 2023 is when I subscribed to Dropout and started watching their content, and I consumed it at what some might say is an alarming or unhealthy rate.
Mm-hmm. Since it is January 2024, and my guess is you've watched everything.
Yeah. Some people go outside and touch grass, and some people watch 10 hours of a D&D show in one sitting. So
yeah,
it is what it is. I'm happy with my choices, and that's how we are where we are today.
Yeah, I remember someone on one of my videos going into junior year was like, I have 6 hours of sophomore year left. And I was like, that's basically just the finale. So sometimes 10 hours of D&D is 2 episodes of a show, because that finale is fully 5 hours long.
100%.
Also, got one of my favorite Brennan stories out of the sophomore year finale, which is because that one was the live season. So, and it the finale was supposed to be March 10th or whatever, 2020. It was exactly when you couldn't be together. And so they had to all suddenly switch to remote. And so Brendan records this 5-hour finale in the Nightmare Forest. I think the next day got a note on his door from a neighbor that was look, I don't know what happened last night, but it can never happen again.
That's very funny.
Because it was just him screaming, I'm going to shit in your mouth at 11 o'clock at night.
Wearing headphones so they can't hear the other half of anything.
Yeah. So good. I saw recently Rowan Zioli, shout out Rowan, interviewed Brennan, and he was in a new location. So I don't know if he is still trapped in the he found a new office to work out of in the jungles of Panama, or if it's his sword apartment, or if he
I saw a lot of speculation. It was the sword apartment, the sword/affair apartment.
Yes, I texted Rowan and asked her that. So because she, of course, she asks actual good questions. So of course didn't ask is this your sword apartment? A question I 100% would have asked.
Yeah, if I'm here for anything, it's for the bit. So
yeah. Rowan is so wonderful, and such a good interviewer, and it's so upsetting when I see her interview anyone that I have a shot at interviewing, because I'm you've set a bar I cannot hit. I'm gonna be is that your sword apartment? And you're what are your deep introspective thoughts on this rare philosopher that you and I know, but no one watching is gonna know? And Brennan's this is my favorite question ever. Let me give you a 10-minute answer. And I'm well, I'm gonna do bits, and I hope he likes them. I'm a clown. You're a philosopher. Anyway, yeah, that's delightful. I've heard from I'd started doing this Dropouts. Back to the actual answer that you gave. I'm so sorry. Look, it's gonna be weird energy. I've already done one of these. I got 3 more coming. It's you're early in the day, so I don't know if it's good or bad for you. Because I might be out of my mind at the end of the day, just incoherent, or I might be hey, we should collab or something. I don't know. I've heard from a few people when talking about stuff like this that they super got into, like, when they were younger, specifically people who've been like, when I was too young to be watching College Humor, I was watching College Humor. And it's funny because it makes me think of, I think it was Zach in the last Make Some Noise that was like, these guys literally raised me. And it's so funny. I love that journey. It's also very, very fun to like miss basically like a decade and then come back and be like, oh, they're still doing stuff. And be like, oh, they're doing a lot.
They're really doing stuff.
Yeah. I also, that Makes Some Noise was so fantastic. And I'm always, when I see clips from that episode, because they posted a bunch of them, it's so hard not to like comment, like, in order of like who is funniest on this episode, I think it's Brennan first, Josh second, Zach third, because I'm like, if someone hasn't seen the episode, it's gonna seem so mean and for no reason. And for sure,
people like, no, I think that is really funny. Also, like, why would you say that?
Yeah, why would you do this? Like literally, speaking of Bud Cubby, there was an episode where they posted a clip on TikTok where someone was like, it was a Bud Cubby. It wasn't that specific scene, but it was a different Bud Cubby scene. And I commented just laws are threats. And that was it. And I got multiple replies of people that I just fully blocked because they were just like, oh, if they're threats, like they're like just like in unhinged, like, no, laws have to be there or we would murder everyone. And then other people replying to them be like, laws are what's stopping you from murdering people. But I'm always cognizant of like the TikTok clips are gonna go out to like people who don't know the show, and usually that's fine. I would say also pretty recently someone commented, replied to one of my comments on a Dropout video, and they're like, I've seen like 3 of your comments in the last 2 minutes while I was scrolling. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm here a lot. I actually comment, I've been here the whole time, because of course I did. But like, like, yeah, man, like, I'm online a lot, and when they post new stuff, I'm there to try and get comments so people see me and think of me. That's
gotta get that brand association.
Yeah. Look, we're trying real hard to be official these days. So, so you said you've basically consumed everything at Dropout now over the last year. Obviously, Dimension 20 high on the list. You have 3 Dimension 20 mugs, a Dimension 20 hat. I don't know if there's other merch hidden elsewhere.
Gramercy.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's really lovely. Yeah.
It's a really nice shirt from their site. It's like metallic, which I did not know I wanted it with.
Yeah, I'm in my D20 High Intrepid Heroes hoodie and a NADDPod 5th anniversary t-shirt. And because we're on brand most days. I wore my Goat House t-shirt to interview Abria, and it took her, I would say, like 10 minutes into the interview to figure out what I was wearing because it's so faded. Like you can barely see. I don't think you can recognize that there's a goat. You can't read the words that are on it. Like it's a disaster of a shirt. But I should say, I apologize. My mortal enemy, Abria Iyengar. But so what are some of your favorite Dropout shows then? Like I said, I assume Dimension 20 is high on your list, but what else are you like so excited when we're getting new episodes of it?
I would say, Dimension 20 is obviously top of the list. I know we're not getting anything new, but I watched Total Forgiveness and I loved it very dearly. It really struck a chord with me, and I actually think about it often. Like, it just something about it. It holds a very special place in my heart. And I am loving Very Important People.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so funny. And Vic's sense of humor is like, right? It's very similar to my sense of humor. So like, sometimes you watch stuff and you enjoy it, but like there's parts where you're like, oh, that felt that flat for me. Or like, oh, I didn't really, get that joke or whatever. But I can tell you, Very Important People, not a single thing. I was like, chef's kiss. Every choice everyone made is perfect.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm obviously really loving Very Important People because I talk to Vic once already. I'm talking to Vic again this Thursday. Vic will be my first returning like solo guest, because obviously like, I did nice. a Bros In production round table, so there were a bunch of people that I had talked to already, but like this will be my first like one-on-one person who comes back, because I had talked to Vic after I had seen the Denzel episode. They hadn't seen it yet, which is also wild. But we obviously, like, I talked to them before I had seen Nana. And as soon as I saw Nana, I was like, hey, we got to do this again, right? Like, we got to do this right now.
Yeah.
That was so fun.
So crazy. I had people over when we were watching it, and they were like, what are we watching? This is insane. Which is exactly the brand I love. So
yeah,
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Right before I hopped on here, I was actually editing a TikTok that I'm about to upload about Thousand Airs, I assume, because it's the show that they're shooting right now, or they probably are done by this point, the way Dropout works, but they were shooting last week, and so I had a couple other screenshots that I wanted to upload, and Vic and Lisa are sitting next to each other on the couch in one of the group shots. And so I was in my video, I'm like, it's nice to see Vic and Nana being able to get along. And then I'm splicing in the clip of Vic screaming, "You absolute son of a bitch, you won't die." Because I lost like the breath from my lungs. I laughed so hard at that moment. Yeah. And I also just to shout out Vic and Lisa for that matter. They're like incredible comedic brains. I love that they pulled it way back after that, after Vic screams at her, that then they went way down and have a night, and a couple other moments where they go to an 11 and then they come way back down, so then they can build back up to it. It's such brilliant comedy. But yes, also the most unhinged thing I think I've ever seen.
100%.
Yeah. And I mean, having spoken with Vic, because I think we have reached the pinnacle of I don't think the rest of the season is going to be bad, certainly, but I don't think anything's going to match Nana, based on the people that I've talked to behind the scenes, that this is true. I mean, also I've seen multiple people that not me, people that are this is the best improv ever captured on film. It's incredible. Yeah. We love to see it. Yeah, I'm super in love with how much. It's also cool. I think for you having come in last year, you got to see Dropout sort of at their best. In terms, I mean, everything last year was just firing on all cylinders, and I think I think they, from what I understand, it was a confusing article. They doubled in subscribers last year, which is obviously a large jump. It's you got to come in at this really cool moment when you're seeing them not that they've ever bad. 2020 was a rough year, but for lots of reasons. But yeah, getting to see them suddenly have very important people, and now Smarty Pants is on its way. The Thousand Airs, which we just talked about, as well as Dropout Presents, and my brain is blanking on the fifth one. Oh no. It's Nobody Asked. I did it. I don't have to look at notes for that. But yeah, you get to see this really cool, everything is established and great, and all of a sudden also expanding. Have you sort of experienced any of that, as you've come into this fandom, at a time when I'm guessing a lot of people are suddenly identifying the fandom? What is that kind of like?
Yeah, I would say, it's kind of wild, because I feel like you said, I came in right in the thick of it, so it's it still seems new, but is also doubling in size and growing, and their program is expanding seemingly exponentially. And it's very interesting to me. I always love to watch the behind the scenes stuff. I think a lot of us do, because I feel like none of them expected this, and it's coming in fast and furious, like more than any of them could have anticipated. People are like, yeah, I can't believe 5 years ago we were like, well, let's make a D&D show and maybe it'll do something, and now we have all this programming on this huge platform with so many fans. And as someone who's like a creative who's tried out like a lot of things as far as like content creation or just like local stuff goes, like it makes my heart so happy to like see seemingly, really nice people who've worked really hard and are very kind to their fan base, like see such huge success. And I love how like real they all are. They're not like some, ethereal celebrity out in the ether. And so that's something I love about Dropout and something I hope stays as they continue to grow. But it has been a wild time because I found out about it and nobody like I know in my area knew what it was. I've introduced like several people since then, been like, come join us. But I start, following all the people on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and I'm like, this is huge. Like no one I knew about it, so I'm like, oh, it's just like a little nerd thing that has a small following, and then I start looking into the social media, and I'm like, oh my god, there are so many people here. But the fandom itself seems very welcoming and very kind, and one I'm glad to be a part of. So
yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, like, many of them have responded to my DMs when I just like randomly hop in there. So like, they do feel very much more connected than like, someone who has like a social media manager running their Instagram account.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, I think one of the other things that I've talked about, and that I love is that like how Sam runs the business, is that he like they did profit sharing this year, and they're looking at like they're trying to figure out how to do like residuals for folks, both cast and crew, and I think it's so smart because like you said, like this has suddenly exploded and they didn't expect that, and like Brennan has become this incredibly hot commodity, right? Like Brennan could theoretically say like go to Amazon and be like, I'll run a D&D show for you, pay me $10 million, which obviously Brennan's not gonna do, but like those offers in theory could come in, and the fact that they're like, we're gonna do profit sharing, we're gonna do like residuals, like it hopefully means we'll see these people, even as they like start to get outside careers, still return to Dropout because Dropout's treating them well, paying them fairly, paying them better than what they're making elsewhere, which is a thing they've talked about pretty regularly. Yeah, and I also like, I mean, the good news is, like you said, it seems to be growing exponentially, and yes, but also Sam's very cognizant of like, we're not going to double in subscribers next year. That's not going to be a thing that happens every year. So like we've got enough base that we can make these 6 shows or whatever, these 6 new shows, and continue the shows we've already got. And that like also feels very good that it means Dropout isn't suddenly going to be like, whoops, we're bankrupt. So yeah, and also like I'm glad the fandom has felt welcoming, because certainly like it's welcoming for me, but I'm like a straight white dude, so like it's pretty welcoming for me everywhere I go. So like
I'm not gonna lie, I've seen the hate stuff side of it too. People dog on Allie for total forgiveness, which I don't agree with, but we don't have to get into that. And people dog on Emily.
No, let's get into it. Let's defend Allie Beardsley on Total Forgiveness. It's a great show.
And that finale is everything. And that's what I'll say on that.
Yeah.
Emily, she gets hate from the classic D&D community, if you will. Yeah. And actually I started following you, like the first 2 or 3 videos I saw were you defending Emily, and I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but that's what I'm here for. So.
Yeah, it doesn't happen as often anymore, but it'll occasionally, like, I'll see one, I'll pop in, I'll make some video where I'm screaming at someone about Emily, and it almost always gets like a reply or two that I'm like, we're just gonna keep doing these because like the videos do better than anything else I make. Like, people love it when I yell. I don't know why, and I just try to weaponize that for good. Yeah, I'll say, like, Allie Beardsley, like, made fantastic decisions in Total Forgiveness. It was a
100%.
game show that they were trying to win. Like, it wasn't like just because they got Grant better than Grant got Allie, Grant was still trying to get Allie. Allie was just better at it. And then the ending, like, really, like, changes the entirety of the show. And yeah, like I was not expecting, I think I probably watched other things on Dropout that had made me cry at that point, but like certainly wasn't expecting that in show to be oh, whoops, I'm crying now at like
I was like
people competing for college loan forgiveness. Yeah.
And it's the thing of like, it's just that a lot of Grant stuff didn't bother them.
Yeah.
As much like, as Allie's stuff bothered Grant.
Yeah, get a tattoo of your current girlfriend or whatever that nonsense. Like, thing.
They the one challenge that Grant did do for Allie that I thought was over the line that I don't think people talk about is making Allie get drunk before work every day.
Yeah.
I thought that was like kind of dangerous and like borderline like an HR problem as far as all that goes. But also like the whole point of the show is like, what depths will people go to even against people they love or have a relationship with for money, because student loans are so predatory and like put you in such a bad spot. And I think if either of them hadn't made those very bold, crazy decisions, like it wouldn't be getting the point across that it's supposed to get across. So
absolutely agree with you on every single point. I also love that over the course of the show, was it Allie that discovered they had an entire loan they had forgotten to like calculate into their total? Like, incredible. And like you said, like the finale means nothing, and it's not like it was scripted, of course, but like the finale doesn't hit if they haven't had a rift, which I use very loosely. If there haven't been complications, it's like when people get mad about like the way Saccharina treated Ruby, and it's like, but you get that like Siobhan and Emily still best friends, right? Like they're not, they're fine, so why are you upset on their behalf? Like Grant and Allie still do work. Like they just made a movie last year together. Like they're still great friends who work together. It's wild that anyone's like, Allie's mean. It's like, but Grant doesn't care, so why do you?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm very much hoping that I don't think it will. I was hoping originally that Thousand Heirs was taking on that like Total Forgiveness mantle and was like a spiritual successor to it. It seems not that. Just based on the set, it feels much more like a classic game show, and the fact that Grant has a paddle that says cheap on it, it feels like a thing where they're like, I've seen people be like, they're gonna guess knockoffs versus real, like a Rolex with like 2 L's versus a real Rolex or whatever, and which I also don't think is a like full show, but they've also, like, I think it was Becca Scott posted like, it's weirder than anything we've done before, and I was like, how though? Like, I can't wait, but how? Yeah. Becca, you've had a photo shoot of your feet. Like, how is this weirder? It does though provide me with the fuel for speculating wildly about television shows, which I have never been right about, not even a little bit. I think the only thing I'm right about here is that it is Thousand Heirs, and that's only because it's between Thousand Heirs and Dropout Presents, and so like I'm 99% sure that like the scent on the background and like Grant with a paddle that says cheap on it means it's the show that has like money in the title and not Dropout Presents.
Right.
But for sure, everything else I've guessed is wrong. I can't even figure out who's hosting if there is a host, because there are different people on the couch in every picture. It's mind-boggling.
It's anyone's guess.
Yeah, which is a thing I always encourage. Just guess wildly in my comment section, because that means more people will see it. It drives more people to the video. Oh man, Total Forgiveness is definitely one of those shows that like not enough people talk about, but then when people do talk about it, everyone that's seen it, everyone I know that's seen it is like, no, it's the best. You have to watch it. I was so excited when they launched the social media channels for it, because of course, like there was a moment where I was like, are we going to get more? It doesn't seem like we're getting more, but who knows? I know that when they launched them because literally the Supreme Court was like, no one can have money off their student loans. And they're like, all right, we'll post our student loan content.
Right.
But yeah, I sort of in that vein of favorites, what are some of your like favorite D20 seasons then? What's up on your list?
I would say like at the tippy top, kind of a step above everything else, is Starstruck. I love Starstruck. Ooh. I tell people it's like the most Dimension 20 season of Dimension 20. It just has that, you know, they're first back from being away for COVID, and there's just this energy through the whole season that is like wacky and wild, but still pretty believable. And I feel like even though they made bad choices, they were all like well within character, to build like this crazy, I mean, it's all just like fun. Even the serious parts are fun. And I love every single second of it. Other than that, I really love Fantasy High. I'm so psyched they're doing junior year. And probably under that would be like Court of Fanflowers. I really, really love that season. It's pretty close as far as everything else goes. There's not a lot of seasons, even the seasons I don't like I still like parts of them and right. can appreciate them as a whole. Things like
that. I know. I first of all, 100% agree. Starstruck is my like tippy top as well. Because it used to be for me, it was like Starstruck, and then like Crown of Candy and sophomore year would flip depending on the day at 2 and 3. And then Bros End came in and like wrecked everything, and I don't know how to make a list anymore because I loved it so much. But yeah, Starstruck. I mean. You get like I think Brennan talked about this in his behind the scenes that like they're just like they're trained killers at TTRPGs at this point. Like they right. don't this isn't jumping on tables, this isn't Ice Feast. They're not messing around anymore. Like they've read their character sheets. Like you get that amazing moment of Brennan screaming, you know, am I getting Ocean 11 on my own fucking show? Like what an incredible moment. Just like
you gotta love Operation Slippery Puppet and all the nat 20s on animal handling so that Aurora and Evans could come on the show and become a part of the team. Like, just so much good stuff.
It also, like, I think, you know, like, that season also felt really special because it was, you know, this universe that Brennan's mom helped build. And so, like, you got, like, this really cool family connection. And, like, you talked about, like, you could love seeing behind the scenes stuff. We got, like, a full Brennan mom interview where we got, like, first of all, fun Brennan lore about, like, what a weird little kid he was, of course. But also just, like, cool, like, a cool, like, hey, this is what what this universe is like. Super love Starstruck. Fantasy High
so, like, also Margaret Encino,
an all-timer.
It's like the best character ever.
Yeah, like the fact that like Allie is spending their turns banking and it's paying off so huge, like it's just like brilliant beyond measure. Like it's
Margaret just like walking up to people and going, "You suck." Yeah. And then walking American goes over. Yeah. I mean, Chef's Kiss, amazing.
Yeah. It's one of those things that they're like, I find they're like it's like a spectrum of like D&D players, where when you're so new, you don't know what you can't do. So like you try really wild stuff. And then there's like, you're so good at the game, you know everything you can do, and so you still try wild stuff because you know how to, like, I'm gonna cast a gust cantrip to put out a candle golem, like that level of like skill, that like versus, you know, I DM'd it for some like first time players, and it's always one of my favorite things in the world to DM for first time players, because they just will be like, hey, can I try this thing that, like, it's not how the spells should work, and they don't know that. They're just like, hey, can I try this thing? And I'm always like, yeah, you bet you can. Let's do this. We'll improvise how to figure out like what this like means. And that felt like Allie at like a peak of, I understand this character so well that I can make truly wild decisions in combat that are still beneficial.
100%.
And then like obviously sophomore year is somewhere in my, like, it's certainly my top 5, because also like that energy, oh boy, you talk about the energy in Starstruck, the energy in sophomore year when they were live is just wild. And I also like, I love everything that happens in that season. You know, like, I mean, I've already mentioned
Baron. Like, you can't be Baron from the Baronies.
You get Baron, you get Chungle Down Bim. Like, it's an amazing. Yeah, you get Ida. Yes, like an amazing season. You get Arthur, the size of like the world grabbing the sun across the sky. Like, truly, just like. Truly such an iconic moment. I know, or an iconic season full of iconic moments. And, you know, when I talked to Rick Perry, I mentioned, you know, we talked a little bit about like junior year, and I was like, yeah, how, you know, it has to be exciting for you because you haven't been back to this universe since freshman year, because like sophomore year was live, so there wasn't any minis or maps or anything to build. Like, it was all theater of the mind. And you know, I couldn't get him to confirm that there's a Galir mini, but there's got to be, like, after episode 1 for sure, there's at least like 3 Galir minis that they have made. I also I'm obviously like really excited that they're back. I loved the first episode of junior year. We have not, as of recording this, we have not seen episode 2 yet. I loved being dropped in media res, and just like meeting Squeam and the other folks. How was your last Wednesday? How did it go for you?
So I loved it. I thought it was great. All of the little bits that, I mean, I live for a bit. I tell people my love language, even though I don't believe in those, is doing bits with people. If you do a bit with me, we're gonna be friends. But I partook of the devil's lettuce before I watched the episode. When I tell you I was beyond confused, I was like, did they accidentally release a later episode? And then they kept mentioning, like, it's our first time back for Fantasy High Junior Year. And I was like, no, it's the right episode. It took me a while, like longer than it should have. And then I was like, okay, I'm here for this. I understand what's happening. I definitely should have watched this with a clear mind.
I mean, how could you have known that? Yeah, I mean, the problem is that Brennan took a bit and threw it to such talented improvisers that they just immediately latched onto that bit so hard that the audience at home was like, wait, what's happening? I mentioned this on TikTok. Like, I watched the episode early, which is an incredible like boon in my life because I don't have time Wednesday nights to be able to watch it.
Sure.
But it did mean that while I was watching the episode, I didn't have the benefit of being able to check in with anyone. Like, I said, like, I googled like Dimension 20 Squeam, 0 results. Like, and I was like, okay, if there are no results, this has to be brand new because he would have his own like Wikipedia page or what the fandom page if Squeam existed before now. But there was definitely a moment where I was like, I'm very confused. So it was also fun to watch that confusion spread over Discord and elsewhere. What's happening? And then Carlos Luna being the perfect troll that he is, just fully leaning into it.
So hard at the bad Photoshop of him in different TV shows and like the hand-drawn scores on the Game Changer set. Loved it.
Yeah.
It's great.
So good. I don't know if you follow Sam on Threads. That's the place it is. He probably posted this to Twitter as well, but I'm not on there, so I don't know. But he posted like a screenshot from like their company Slack where Sam was like, I can't believe we have a Squeam like emoji in Slack already. And Carlos responded, we've always had a Squeam emoji with the Squeam emoji at the end of it. It's like incredible to just like lean in so hard on the company Slack. And Sam posted it and was like, furiously Googling the Mandela effect. And I was like, I feel like Carlos is trying to Mandela effect us on his own. And I feel for you. The confusion is understandable. I saw a couple people in my comments that had the same problem of like, hey, I messed up before the episode started. I didn't know.
Started off at a major disadvantage.
Yes. Yeah. But man, I remember like I think because I think the issue, and I mentioned this in a video, that like because it's been so long for most of like since they've played the Intrepid here, or since they've played the Bad Kids, and that like the online community has built them up into something that they're not. The sophomore year finale, like Fabian's big dilemma is whether to let Chungle Down Bim catch him and shit in his mouth while he's distracted by the sexy rat. They're always doing bits.
100%. Yeah. 100%. And like ultimately, it's kind of like when you're watching like young adult stuff in general, and people are like, why didn't they just do this, or why did they act like that? And it's like, well, they're still playing high schoolers.
Yeah.
Like they are still kids.
Yes.
They're gonna do stupid stuff. They're gonna make stupid jokes and take it too far. That's all part of it. It's part of the, joy of the environment.
Yes, yeah, and they do it so well. I also saw someone complain once that like they were upset. They felt the fandom had bullied them back into junior year, and I was like, I don't think they get bullied like that. Like,
no.
I think Brennan wanted to go back, and so he decided to do it. I don't think any amount, because if that was true, we would have a superhero season, we would have a Western season, because the fandom yells at them all the time about it.
We would have Star Trek season 2.
Yes, Murph would have DM'd in the season, like in the dome, like 3 times already. Like they can't be bullied into the fandom's whims. So I get to brag of like I get to see the episodes early, which is like it is a joy. It's also such a lifesaver for me because there's not a chance in the world I'm starting it at it starts 6:00 my time on Wednesday night. Not a chance in the world. My son goes to bed at 7. So like that hour beforehand, I can't sit down and be like, I'm watching TV. So like no way I'm ever seeing it live. And then, like usually my wife and I have some other shows that we're watching. And so, like even those nights, like, especially if it's one of those like wild 4-hour episodes, like I'm not going to be able to even finish it that night. So then like we're into Thursday and Friday before, and at this point Dropout is producing so much content, like I'm just never going to catch up. So like the big joy for me of having it early, besides making videos taunting people about it, is that like I can actually have it finished. Like I can watch it like Monday. Usually I get it like Monday or Tuesday, and I can actually like watch it like on my own pace, like before the episode airs. But also like it's wild that I get to see the episodes early because I just mentioned this to someone that like Sarah Barrios shot that incredible music video. Teenage Rebellion's phenomenal. I love the song, but like she didn't know the like solar lasso on top of the hang van until she saw the episode Wednesday night. Like she didn't know what it was. And so like when her music video came out, I knew what it was and she didn't. And that's
crazy.
Incomprehensible. Yeah. Like, cause it was also that was another very fun taunting video I got to make where someone was like, whoa, the laser on the van would be cool. And I'm like, wouldn't it though? Which like, I felt fine making that one because I was pretty sure in the previews you saw that like there was something mounted to the top. Anyway, so let's say hypothetically, you get the call from Sam or Carlos, whoever, and they're like, hey, we need some help planning a Dimension 20 season. Do you have like an ideal cast that you would love to sit down at the table? A genre you would love to explore? What are you throwing at them to like sell them on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if they asked me, I would say I want Star Trek season 2. Yeah. Period. End of story.
But let's say then Starstruck side quest, so that you can have a different, so you don't have to just lock in the Intrepid Heroes. Yeah.
Player wise, I mean, if it was Star Trek, I would want Brennan to DM, but I actually love watching him as a player. Mm-hmm. He's just a really good actor and really commits to the character. So I would love to see him as a player. I also love when him and Abria play together. So even her as a player. I actually think for a side quest, Murph would be a great DM for that. Mm-hmm. In the world of Starstruck. Probably like Emily, maybe like Rashawn, because she has a fun, goofy energy.
So good.
So good. I think that's roughly it. Like maybe throw Lou in there to round it out a little bit, but yeah, I would say like top people I like to watch play the most are like Emily, Brennan, and Abria. I just really enjoy their play styles.
I would say like the joy for Rashawn for that would be because when I talked to her about Bros End, she was like, I thought it was going to be like, come in, and this is a direct quote from her, I was going to do wackety schmackety like bits with them, and then it was like emotionally devastating. And so like getting her in like a Starstruck side quest where she gets to be wacky.
Talked about like some kind of funky jazz.
I pitched her an all on an all bards season, and she was like, you like an intergalactic funk adventure, and I was like, yes, let's do that.
100%.
Yeah. I'm assuming, based on you saying Murph would be a good DM, that means you are a NADDPod consumer as well.
Yes. I'm new, so I'm not like super far into it, but I do listen pretty
regularly. Give me where you're at then. It's one of my favorite things in the world. Where are you at in NADDPod?
Oh, I'm so early, like less than 10 episodes in, I think. Yeah.
Well, hey, you made it past the first big hurdle, which is the first 5 minutes of the first episode. The discussion of dragon genitalia has very famously turned some folks off of the episode and the entire series. And it's very funny because they've always talked about that because if you're like first 10, they don't have short rests yet, which is their talkback show. I think that comes in at 14, which is when, and then I joined the Patreon immediately when I got there because I also was like catching up in 2020 when I started listening. I joined immediately because I love that behind the scenes discussion. I know some people that there's this very specific episode, and I won't tell you which one, but there's a very specific episode that people are like, well, now I have to know. Like I have to know like what was going on behind the scenes. But yeah, they in the short rest they will talk about like that first 5 minutes of that first episode is a really good barometer for whether or not. And the thing is, I've heard people be like, it's not a good barometer, and I get it because it almost never reaches that level again. I think it does like one or two more times. I think it actually clears it a couple of times, which is pretty wild. But like, I think it does give you a good sense of like, if I didn't enjoy this, it's not going to get there often, but like it can. So like maybe not for me.
And it's like Moonshine talks about how fertile looking she is all the time. So if you're not in for that stuff,
that's an Emily Axford guarantee. Her characters are going to be well endowed up top. Like that is her first and foremost concern when building a character. I will absolutely tell you, like, Moonshine Cybin, my absolute favorite Emily Axford character of all time. It's such, and I think, one of the joys of it is you get a full 100 episodes with those characters. So, you don't have that, oh, I only got 20 episodes with, Sundry Sydney. Is she over my shoulder? She's there-ish. I'm trying to figure out. I can never remember where to point when I'm looking at things behind me. But I do have, and I don't think it will be visible in the actual edit, but I do have a Sundry Sydney poster on my wall because I do love that character a lot. Her I Can Do It with her gun arm up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Moonshine Simon is something special. Boy, Emily is just such an incredibly talented player.
Yeah.
But
1,000%.
Yeah, I love Murph DMing. One of the things that I really love about Murph as a DM is he does, I think, really interesting combats, and you're probably not there yet in like NADDPod, but certainly as it progresses, it very much like sort of moves away from like a traditional, here's a bad guy with like a bunch of hit points, go hit him a bunch, and moves into a lot more like, hey, here's like, you got to close a portal or whatever, right? Like there's some other objective that's happening and makes the combat always feel way more dynamic. And I think Murph's really, really good at that. But yeah, I love the idea of having Bria, Brennan, Lou, Rashawn, all sitting at a table together. Oh, that would be such a fun table to watch. Bria and Brennan have such good energy.
Oh yeah,
when they're playing off each other.
To Worlds Beyond Number, which is just another level of amazingness. And yeah, just their chemistry is just so good. Yeah.
I don't know if you're into any Critical Role stuff, but Calamity.
I watched Calamity.
Okay.
I have not watched a single minute of any other Critical Role.
Entirely fair.
Calamity, I was like, okay, it's Brennan. Okay, it's Lou. Okay, it's Bria. I can watch this. And then I watched it and was emotionally devastated.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, it's so good. I think about it so often. And one of the moments that I think about in terms of like as a player is Bria in really early on is like, oh, this is the last piece I needed for the world engine or whatever it was that it was called. I don't remember the details. It's been a year since I watched it. But like that was not something they had planned out beforehand. Brennan didn't know she was going to say it. Brennan, like, there was no discussion beforehand. It was just a Bria being like, I see where your story needs to go. I'm going to get us there immediately. And like, after like seeing that and knowing that she just fully like improvised that moment to move the story forward, I was like, yeah, I get why Brennan and Bria were like, we should make a podcast together. Like, we are on the same page. Yeah, Worlds Beyond Number is really something special. Although, are you current on Worlds Beyond Number?
Yes, I'm current on that one. Yeah.
So when I talked to Bria, we talked about like that I'm a sous vide defender. This is a household that defends sous vide, even though boy does she make it hard sometimes. Like that. But I was like, worried about the Citadel. And I think Bria was like, look, we chose she's like, like wouldn't give anything away. She's like, we chose the word empire for a reason. And I was like, yeah. And so like, I had still been thinking about that, like that discussion. I was like, okay, but like, maybe they chose empire to like play on what we expect an empire to be. And like, maybe it won't be that bad. And then in episode 19, Brennan is like, and not even the stuff at the end of the episode, the lore drop in the episode. Brennan, in a paraphrase here, Brennan's like, hey, the wealth of magic should be held in the hands of the few, not redistributed to everyone. And I was like, the Citadel is capitalism. They're the bad guys.
Right. I mean, it's a Brennan, campaign. So I was like, well, surely the Citadel is not good people. Yeah. Surely I should have a healthy dose of skepticism about the shenanigans going on there.
Yeah, it was. Immediately, like I was always concerned, but when it very clearly started hitting capitalism things, I was like, we're in trouble. Brennan has made it known. This is always the bad guy. This has been super delightful. We have a few more minutes, but I don't want to take away from like, I know you mentioned that you are a content creator. What is it what is it that you are making, and where can folks find those things on the internet?
So I will say, I don't have a brand. I'm just, on TikTok, bullshitting around. I'm on TikTok and Instagram. My username is Sisserfriend, so it's SISSERFREN. So come have a good time. Yeah. It's very laid back and chill. Yeah, and other than that, I don't have anything I want to promote because I don't want to dox myself, but I do like local community theater stuff. I'm an actor and a director.
Oh, very cool.
That kind of stuff. So, and I also was on a YouTube series called Video Fever Show, where I play a puppet. You won't see my face, but you will hear my voice.
That's super fun.
Puppet, so.
Yeah. Delightful. All right, great. Then we can just keep talking about Dimension 20. We're like 5 minutes off of the hour, and I didn't want to get 30 seconds in. You'd be like, I actually have a very specific project that I want to talk about.
No.
Yeah, one of the things that if you got what's a dropout dream job for you, keeping in mind I have no pull whatsoever?
I mean, I'm a performer at heart, so obviously being in front of the camera is always the ultimate dream. But I actually really, really love directing. Mm-hmm. I love having a vision for what the story should be and the tone and making it all seem cohesive and as one. So I'm obviously not in film. I don't know what the equivalent would be, but something like that where you're kind of what Carlos does of making sure we're always staying in the right tone, and is this in line with what we've done in the past. That kind of stuff is always very intriguing to me and something I really enjoy doing. So probably something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what that, because my first thought was script supervisor is someone who makes sure that you're always if you're shooting things multiple times, just obviously this is for scripted content, that you're mm-hmm. You got the everything's in the right place and in the right you're that attention to detail of no, you were holding the gun in your left hand in that last shot.
Oh yeah,
so
and
switch.
Continuity, a continuity supervisor would be great. I'm the most annoying person sometimes to watch shows with, because I'll be why is there, oh my god, they filmed this after or before because they're wearing, their shirt this way and it was that way. Or oh, they were holding the cup in their left hand and then in the cut, they're holding it, in their right hand extended out or whatever. So something like that would be fun too, just for very analytical brain.
Yeah. In the most recent Very Important People, when they did the set reset after they had been threatening to kill each other, that centerpiece that's on the table was back on the table, so it must they cut around the full reset of the set, and I noticed that, so I have that same problem as well as someone my undergrad is in film, I can't help I can't help that thing where I'm watching a movie and I'm this shot's been going on for 3 minutes, and then my brain can't stop looking for the cut. I was watching Echo recently, and there's an extended fight in it, but there are 3 or 4 points when there are absolutely cuts, when the camera pans across something and it gets totally blocked out, and you're well, they cut there. That is right. that's a classic trick. Someone ran into the camera, so it went fully black for a second. That's a cut. That's not and my brain is poison. I can't not see those.
Related to Dropout, but in editing, I think masterclass. Have you ever seen an episode of It's Always Sunny that looks like it's shot in one shot?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Chef's kiss. So good.
Yeah.
Just trying to throw that out there. So who also enjoys continuity and editing.
It always I love when things like that happen. I'm only thinking of this because I literally watched the True Detective episode last night with Jodie Foster. It's back for the first time in a decade. I always when the I think it's an 8-minute shot of Matthew McConaughey running through, and there's a helicopter flying overhead, and it's all one take. It's it was so exciting at the time because people appreciated it, and I was yes, this is a thing that I appreciate every time. And now everyone's talking about it. What a delight! I'm assuming, thinking about like jobs at Dropout like that, though, there's like a lore keeper for Dimension 20. I can't think of her. I think her name is Molly. I've attempted to drop into her DMs, as I do with a lot of people on that show, and she did not see my request, which is fair.
Right.
Like, she doesn't follow me, so it's not like she missed a message from me. Like, she would have had to click on requests to see it. But yeah,
you're there with all the bots and the "Will you be my sugar baby" messages. Yeah.
Oh, man, that was what distracted me when I opened TikTok right before this. I saw a message from someone that said, "How are you doing today?" And I was like, "No, that's not no, I'm not responding to that." Anyway, Shelby, this was super fun. Again, thank you so much for donating to Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for having this delightfully wonderful conversation with me. We've talked about where the folks can find you on the internet. Is there any last thing that you would like to plug with this, I don't know, audience of 10 people?
Oh, don't be so modest. No, not really, other than I just want to thank the Dropout community for being so kind and welcoming in general as a fan base, and thank the Dropout creative team and everyone who works there for doing crazy, insane, amazing work that I think is getting the appreciation it deserves. You deserve it, and I hope you keep at it for a long time to come.
Yeah. Agreed. And at this point, I will do the thing that I always do, which is I don't know how to end these, so I'm just going to hit stop recording. And